You're listening to the Who is Christine Anyway podcast season 2. Today's special guest is Jake Trowbridge of Balaguer Guitars. Enjoy.
That's one of the cool things too that I like about Balaguer is I've been watching the rosters of the A&R, of all the artists that kind of come and join the crew, and it's been really fun. I know I did my interview with Travis. He's on your guys' roster. God, when I met him and he was, God, that I just keep saying oh God, because I could just remember meeting him and how I met him about the tattoo thing. And I love his side project, Fake Figures. And Balaguer's instruments just sound great in his playing as a whole. I think that it's interesting. People think that anybody just picks up an instrument and that instrument is automatically tailored to that person. And it's not. Like different specs, different people. Like I hadn't worked with luthiers before. And I'm really big on the whole baptism of fire thing.
Sure.
I don't know why. I learn really well when someone just goes goodbye and shoves me off a cliff.
Guitar.
Yeah, they're like, here you go. Here's and they're gonna give me like 5 tools and 4 of them don't go for that. So it's kind of I'm gonna a twisty tie. I don't know where that goes, like that kind of thing.
Sure.
So I had to learn about the difference in tone woods and the types of woods and the bridges and the pickups and the, the trussing and the necks and the head. Like there's a lot that goes to it. And understanding, and it really gave me a deeper understanding of the artistry and the musicianship, right? So I'll book a concert, sure. But I always talk to the techs too that go with the players, because it's almost like, I don't want to say it's almost like their wives. Your techs are not your wives, unless you're lucky and you get that, kind of thing. But I don't, I wouldn't do that. I don't think. Can you imagine a husband
It'd be risky
mid-set?
It'd be risky.
This is out of tune. Like that's messy.
The dishes in the bus are dirt.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that to a wife. She was my tech. Like
no. Oh no, I'd be the one being told, not the other way around. I'd be the one teching. I could promise you that.
She's just standing over there with her arms crossed, glaring at you because she's mad at you for something 3 days ago. Like, and you realize your E string is out, and you're like,
exactly. I'm just gonna own this.
Like, there's a passive aggressive reel where the wife and the husband, she said something on there, like I asked him to do something, and he didn't do it, and she's making him a sandwich for work.
Right.
And she's like, she puts the bread down, she puts the meat down, she doesn't unwrap the American cheese.
Ooh. Oh, wow. That's
plastic wrapper, sets it on the bread, puts the sandwich together, and puts it out. And I'm like, oh, that's vile.
There's something about that I love, though. It's like
I'm gonna go and do the dishes.
yeah, right. It's like borderline vigilante justice, right? It's just like, all right, this is gonna be so unexpected and so off the radar that like you are never gonna forget that I put this wrapped piece of cheese in your sandwich, and you're going to think about it for the rest of your life every time you say, I'm too tired to do the dishes.
Are you too tired? Are you? You're too tired to eat your sandwich today at work. What kind of was that sandwich? You get my message?
Exactly. That's the thing, right? It's like you open the lunchbox and there's like a severed head. It's that kind of vibe.
Just right. Don't forget on the cheese wrapper and put the sandwich back together. But if it's back to text, circling back on that, like the amount that they actually have to know about their player, I call them their,
sure.
It's a buddy system. It's a partner system.
It is. And
it's, when I started understanding that there were so many components to guitars, it's not just like, everyone talks about pickups. Everybody talks about tuners. Everybody talks about strings.
Yep.
Especially and I'm talking like the generic player that you'll find anywhere. Not many of them understand the difference between how the body wood, or, whatever can affect the sound of a guitar, or, the neck, or sights. That was a fun one, learning about sights when they were, all that with rosewood and the different types of, exotic woods that go into these beautiful guitars and stuff.
Yeah.
And how they affect the sound. So that's why there was such restrictions or whatever and usages.
Yeah.
And then the understanding of the humidity.
Yeah.
And temperature control. People think they just huck a guitar somewhere and leave it there forever. Now I actually watch those videos where Like the woman's like helping my husband clean his office, and she takes his, I think it's like
Oh,
a craft
yeah.
Gibson.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, and she just puts it in the tub and washes it. And I'm
I
just
had-
like, where's
That's
Liv?
so-
Send him the paperwork. He needs to fill out
Oh, I
the
know, right?
paperwork. Like,
Put this woman in jail. Yeah, I had so many people send me those videos, like people who don't even play music, because those videos blew up. And I was just, it's absurd. Like it's so funny because it is exactly what, I mean, not the
it's
best
the
thing,
irrational fear
but
of
yeah,
every musician. It's
it
like
is.
they came back and they're like, your keys on your keyboard and your piano were dirty, so I put pledge on them,
Oh
you
man.
know, or whatever they do. It's one of those things where it's just you have those fears. It's kind of like, what if I get on the roller coaster and the seatbelt breaks? It's like,
Yeah.
not gonna happen. But probably if your tech was your wife and you were the player and you get home and she's washing your guitars looking at you, you should be concerned.
Yeah.
But
Well, oh yeah, 100%. Immediately leaving. I'm like, shoot me to the moon or shoot her to the moon. The
I knew this day would come and you just
yeah, exactly.
So
The-
go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say that the tech thing is wild because I do think that after working on so many guitars at this point,
Mhm.
and even before you get to luthery, like just the tech setup work, knowing how someone wants a guitar to feel, play, sound, all of that stuff, you can't like if I had $1 for every time somebody said, I want to order a custom Balaguer, I like this kind of music, how should I spec it out? Or I like this player, how should I spec it out? Or this is what I'm going for, how should I spec it out? And it's like, well, it, I can tell you what each thing is, how it affects the sound, what all of this stuff, sort of how it all coexists in this tonal ecosystem, trademark. But it really is something you have to experience, and knowing someone can only tell you how they want it to sound. You learn how they want it to feel, how they want it to sound.
Well, that's
Every player is completely different.
yeah.
And
And I mean, we're talking about like it's like me going, I don't know, pick some like Mariah Carey, Rihanna's shoes, right?
right.
You say their foot's like a size 11. Mine's a 7.5. We're not talking about shoes anymore. We're talking about neck radiuses.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
My hand
Yes.
is not going to fit the same as per se that player's possibly. I may want to play like that player, but I need to play to what works for me.
Yeah.
And same thing with like weights and stuff like that of the guitar. And like there is a lot to learn around that. I see like and a lot, and I'm hearing myself in my head. But it's
okay. I keep looking to the side for absolutely no reason. So I think
it's the cat
we're
you
even.
don't know you're gonna get now.
Yeah, go.
But
I
it's
love cats, by the way.
I do too. I just like animals as a whole.
Yeah, all animals, cats, dogs. Just I don't choose. I love them all.
I grew up on my grandfather had exotic birds. Not the chickens,
Oh,
they were
wow.
pretty normal, but I had like swans and peacocks and stuff.
Ooh,
Pretty
sounds
weird trends. I used to show goats too.
wow, goat shoulder. That's a title. We're talking about titles earlier.
I have a trophy, I'll have you know.
Respect.
I'll have you know I am a trophy carrying member of the Goat Show Society. I was actually the president of my club in 4-H. That's where my title problem came in.
Oh, there it is. See,
There
suddenly.
you go. Like call me Presidente. You know,
There it is.
come over here. Like it was fun. And it's even funnier that I have like a gigantic 11 by 17 size goat photo blown up in my house above my office, my bedroom.
Hey, you got to stay true to your roots. I mean, if that's what you did, you got to own it. You should integrate it into who you are.
I'm starting to sound like a really great zombie like apocalypse partner. Like I can do all kinds of stuff, and now I can make goat milk soap. So
Right.
I just increased my value.
I like that. I like that.
Consultant slash milker. That's what we're going.
Oh, okay. It's certainly valuable in the apocalypse.
No.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
So with working with Balaguer and having all their shapes and stuff like that, what is your favorite? I don't know. We could go. There's so many finishes that are so pretty. So I feel like that's a trick question. Do you have a particular favorite finish that you like?
So yes, my answers are very boring in that regard, but yes, I do. I like either what we call Arnie Palmer burst, which is a very like yellow to orange kind of classic sunburst.
Yeah.
I like that look. I've always liked that look. I liked it before I played Balaguer. I just like that finish a lot. For us, it's Arnie Palmer burst. I'm also a gloss black guy. Like there's something about just
It goes with every outfit.
yeah, exactly. I can wear jeans and a t-shirt. I could fit it in Nashville. I could fit it in LA. I could fit
You
it
can
in
take
New
it
York.
formal. You can take
Yeah.
it informal.
Yeah, I love it. There's something great about just a gloss black guitar. And then I
Yeah.
think I also really like specific metallic finishes. Like we recently just did a USA built run of our Seraph model. So we did a couple dozen of them in a batch. And one of the finishes that we did was a finish that Joe named Jewel White. And it's sort of like almost like a Cadillac white, Mary Kay white. It's slightly off. So it's got this little bit of cream to it, but it's also got the metallic flake in it or metallic particulate. Yeah. And it's got like
pearlescent type.
yeah, pearlescent. And the metallic is intentionally multicolored. So you've got this sort of like off-white base, but then you've got this metallic particulate that's like green and blue and red. So it has like this really, it's hard to describe unless you see it, but it's this beautiful, almost like color shift off-white, very deep, very pearlescent finish. And I think right now that's probably my favorite because it was a custom finish that we did for the room.
It's like a chameleon type finish.
Yeah, it's not,
but not quite. You never see
Yeah.
chameleon style finishes in white. So it's
Yeah.
kind of one of those things where it's interesting. I hadn't seen that one. Obviously, I'm not spending enough time on the spec.
I'm breaking the rules and leaving the frame right now, but I've actually got one right here. I don't know if it'll show up.
Rules.
This is the finish where
Clean. See, now that
You
can go
can-
with you everywhere too.
yeah, and you can see in the contour it starts to look,
Pretty.
it starts to
You can
look
see
almost
it
pink.
especially on the bottom, down by the horn. you
Yeah,
can see it.
like you can see how the color changes
Mhm.
along the contour. It's just like
It's like a pearlescent. It's like a
Yeah.
100% pearlescent.
yeah, it's probably my favorite finish right now, and it's my favorite we've done in a favorite new finish for sure.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
It goes good with, like it goes good with the black. Like if somebody had black and then white, it worked out. So
It's true.
go ahead. So when we move on to things, I mean, obviously you guys have just done the UK. I know you did another trade. I think it was Germany. You guys have took a little adventure to Germany.
Yeah, that was
Recently?
so there's a show in Mannheim, Germany called Guitar Summit, which has sort of become not sort of, it has become the biggest trade show for Europe for this sort of thing. A lot of people will call it Euro NAMM as a joke. It's that kind of vibe, way smaller, but still a very large show and much more where NAMM is this huge ordeal, right? We're talking about the zoo. There's very much that. Guitar Summit is much more like person to person. It's a little more, I'll say intimate, the conversations, the people you meet, what you do. And it was recommended to us. So we went and that was a fun show because we kind of did it I don't want to say last minute, but it was definitely not in the plan earlier in the year. And we kind of hit on it. And it ended up being the kind of thing that was very like stripped down logistically. So
Yeah.
I took a flight case with 3 guitars. I took my luggage. I did the whole show by myself, where usually, almost always, it's Joe and I, plus whomever's available or whomever we need. And for that show specifically, it was a very one-man show type deal. So it was extra exhausting in a way, but that was also our first anything outside of the US, our first international trade show. And I think I was bolstered throughout the weekend by people coming up and not just German players, but players from all over mainland Europe who had come to Guitar Summit saying like, yo, I have 6 mock-ups on my phone. I've been following you guys since 2016, since 2019, and I'm like, this is wild. Like, you never really know what to expect. We build custom guitars for people in Germany, people in England, people in France, Spain. That's totally normal. We do that all the time. But to actually be there and have the people, I mean, the first time someone walked up and said, yeah, I saw you guys were coming, so I knew I had to be here. And I was just like, totally taken aback in the best possible way. You know,
Right.
that experience then extended to the UK when we went a couple weeks ago, where it was the same thing. Having English, Scottish, Irish, Welsh players come to the booth and, you know, have this sort of just knowledge of the brand that, you know, we might not have built them a guitar. Like we don't, they don't owe us any affiliation. They don't know Joe and I personally outside of maybe hanging out in the live streams and stuff. But for them to show up and just be into the, like really be into it genuinely, it's something that I think we're just tremendously lucky to have that support and that fan base and the community that we've built over the years, and it makes for an incredible experience for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to take in all at once. Imagine like you're in a new continent, you're in a new place, and people are coming up to you and they're going, you know, hey, I'm, you know, following along. And I also, as soon as you started saying they were making mock-ups, I'm sitting here and I'm going, I'm like, see, that mock-up thing is just, it's entrancing. You sit there and you go, what if I just change this? So or maybe, or you have like that intrusive thought where you just go swap something you know you shouldn't. You're like, well,
Oh yeah.
but the or so you provide like a mood board for Christmas. If you're like any of the following is acceptable.
Yeah. I've got my vision board. Yeah, exactly. No, it's a trip, and it's the amount of people who are like, yeah, I'm back and forth between finish A and finish B, or a hardtail or an Evertune, and they've got like they just pull up their phone and bam, 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 and they're like,
There's that folder.
Yeah, and
What do you think? What do you think? And you're just like, extra?
immediately I know we're good. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, just do it.
Don't risk it. Get both.
You only live once.
Just preferring it. But
Exactly.
things where it's great to see Balaguer as a whole now come onto the. I mean, it's been on the international market. As soon as it hit NAMM, you know, and your roster for A&R is really great, but the product itself, I'm big on like combing the internet, and I think the number one thing I see the most is praised is how amazing your customer service is. Like anytime there is, even I don't care if it looked at you wrong, doesn't have eyes, it looked at you wrong, you guys will fix it.
Yeah,
So,
it's true.
it's amazing, and it's people go, they're like, I had an issue with my guitar, or they're like, I changed by my last second, and you guys are right there on it, and it's always so. It's positive as an experience. It's not like, well, you should have changed it and then you did it because you had to. It's like they just make the, you know, hey, this isn't, you know, and everybody's so sheepish when it comes to, I don't say complaining, but like staging an alteration to a product in general. A lot of people are super hesitant about that because of the fact that number one, they don't want to be shit on. That's like the nicest way to put it. Like they don't want to be like, well, you should have picked it before you bought it. You bought it. That's what you have to have, you know.
100%.
Nobody wants to be talked to like that. Let me be clear.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not very many companies are willing to go, okay, well, you got it. It was slightly damaged in shipping. What can we do to make this right? Like you guys are so willing to listen and hear.
Yeah.
It ties into being teachable too, though, because if you find in a certain way that you have consistency, you know, just it kind of works out. So there's no. Even on like 7string.org, I mean, there's always going to be one or two. Whatever you want to call them. There's always going to be one, you know,
dissenters. You know,
it's the ranks, but it's never anything. There's so much more interesting threads on there than. Like, I don't want to stay here. There's no drama. Like,
well, and it really is. Without sounding super lame about it. It's a core tenet of what we do, right? I mean, when Joe was building the company, when it was just him, it was in the forums. It was on 7string.org. It was on Rig Talk. It was on the gear page. It was in a Facebook group that he made for his guitars. Like that was something that he did intentionally in that era when forums really were the only way that you sort of linked all of these things together. And the intention that was behind all of that, not just in building the community, but in keeping it positive, like you said, was definitely something that, you know, we still do that every day. It's something that if you
It's important to do
forget
that.
it,
It's a core value,
yeah, it really is. If
you
anything,
know?
I might even say it's the number one thing. Like you can come here, like we talked about being weird in the music industry. You can come to Balaguer and be weird. You can't come to Balaguer and be mean
Yeah.
or
Mean
impatient.
is like, I always tell people angry is okay, cruel is not.
Yeah.
So like if you get angry with me and you want to say, I'm frustrated, I'm angry at this, that's fine. You
Yeah.
know, stage your complaint, but the second you start name calling, you know, it's not healthy to do that sort of thing. It's actually displays a lack of intelligence if we're going scientific. If someone has to be mean or cruel to get their point across. Because it's just like, but it's also the accuracy of once people start hurling insults, it's because they can't find anything wrong with your idea, your product, your situation. So they attack your character because that's all that's left for them to attack.
Yep.
But
100%.
I'll
And it's,
take I love the weird ones too. I love them all. Like
yeah, it's always a trip, right? Because we're in a retail, largely retail. If you were going to put us in a general category,
Yeah.
manufacturing and retail, and it's like because we both make the guitars and sell the guitars, so we're lucky enough to have great dealers, but we still build custom guitars for people. It's our bread and butter, and if someone orders a guitar and it isn't what they expected, it's all gray area, right? There's no black or white. The answer is never no or yes immediately. If someone reaches out, it's a balance because someone might be inexperienced and not know what they're looking at or experiencing, or someone might be very experienced and we didn't do a good enough job of setting the expectation up front. And I think that's
a
a huge,
conversation.
yeah, it is. And when someone emails in, yeah, someone will email in or call us or reach out to us in a Facebook group or whatever, comment on a YouTube video, any of that stuff, and say, "Oh, A, B, C, D, E," and like they don't sound happy. They're not being particularly nice sometimes, but if we meet that energy, we're not helping them. We're not helping us. We're not helping anybody. For us, it's, hey, look, we totally understand. This would be frustrating for us too. Let's make it right. Whatever that means. Sometimes I learned an important lesson from a previous life where I was a project manager of,
You have to clarify that.
yeah, I had to clarify. Can't leave it out in the ether. I was a project manager and I did a lot of, that's what I did in California and in Louisiana before that. And it was,
Okay.
I had an amazing mentor early on who was just the most unassuming, the most humble, the most chill dude you'd ever meet. But he was COO of this freaking billion-dollar company, not literally, but whatever, $500 million company who, would climb in a dumpster with you and say, hey, this is why it's important that you climb in the dumpster. He showed you. It was never,
So it's important to leave the negative comments up. And I've noticed that
Yeah,
you guys, you
exactly.
don't just go willy-nilly and delete a comment. You leave the negative there.
Yeah, we never do that. It's so hard. The amount of self-control that it takes to do that is intense. It really is because, it can be challenging, but like he told me at that time, he was like, 2% of people are crazy. 2% of people you will never placate. You will never meet their expectation. You will never get it right. He said 2%. Now, the point was the other 98%, if they're unhappy, it's because you made them unhappy or you misstepped somewhere. You didn't set the expectation. You didn't reach out. You didn't. And I think that was a super important lesson because it puts the responsibility on you, the provider, to be upfront, clear. It's why anytime anyone orders anything, that it says it when you check out from the website or when you buy something, it says changes cannot be made after you place your order. But that's basically just CYA, right? Someone reaches out and says, hey, I did this and I think I want this. Our reply is never, like you said earlier, it's not, oh, well, you should have done this. This is on you. No, it's, hey, let me check on the status of your build. If it's at a point where we can redo this or make this change, we're going to do it. Like there's just, there's no way we're not, because we don't want it to be a set it and forget it. This is your responsibility. because some people, if they're collectors or beginners or intermediate players, a lot of people just sort of like you were saying about tone woods earlier, right? They might order something thinking one thing, then learn something in the next month and come back and say, hey, I learned this. Is this true? If it is,
Mhm.
can I make this change? And not only can we answer the question, but we can make the change most of the time. And, to the point of sometimes people get guitars and they're just like, hey, this isn't what I expected. And there are the 2% of times when we kill them with kindness in a way. And then it's
Yeah.
like, hey, look, we set these expectations. We know we did because we do this intentionally. We can look at it. We know we communicated this stuff to you. That doesn't mean we're not going to fix it. We want to meet your expectation, even though we know we did it, even though we know we went above and beyond, even though we had these conversations and made it, put it in writing, black and white, whatever. That's not the end of the conversation. And if you think that
Right.
just because you're covering your own ass, you don't have to pick up later, it like you've sort of missed the point already. So
Mhm.
we make that a huge part of what we do. And it's no one gets left behind from that ethos, right? We treat everyone from the most advanced player to our number one artist.
Those are brand new and starting with their first guitar. There's never
Exactly.
been, I mean, I've seen people of all magnitudes play the guitars. They can literally they show up randomly in my life, in my world, in random places. Like I'm like, oh,
Right.
who made that kind of thing. And it's really interesting in that sense where people, I mean, there's always a sense of entitlement amongst people. There always is. And I don't care who you are, and I don't care if I'm probably gonna get, dragged for that whatever reason. But there is
Flamed immediately.
I'm a witch, that kind of thing, but it's not gonna happen. It's people do when they buy something they feel entitled. Everybody does. It's the same thing. Like, well, I want my burger. Da, da, da. If I'm gonna pay for something, I want something. Okay, well, are you willing to say to your waitress this isn't done right? They're like, I'll say something when the bill comes. I'm like, no, you didn't say anything. We had the burger in front of you. It was
Yep.
fine. Now you're changing it back. But Ballad Gears as a whole worked. I don't even think we see it. And I think that's the kind of weird part. Because of Joe's such interpersonal connections with people as he's building the brand. And then, it's kind of like a parentage, as he's handed that down to the staff that has come into play, that it's like, hey, we answer, we don't ignore.
Right.
Y'all's fans are rabid. Like, I love it. I'm actually let me phrase it. They're feral. I love it. They're in there. They're like, what was wrong with the guitar, Tim? Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, this is it, not the forum. It's the comments. But it's interesting because you guys don't hardly ever have to say anything. Everybody else says what you want to say, and you guys I know don't want to say bad things ever.
Right.
Nobody wants to particularly, but it's always so interesting to hear the community, like we talked about earlier, that you guys have built, where they will actually help them troubleshoot before you guys even see the comment.
Yep.
Did you do this? Have you tried this? Something simple like this? How long you been playing? I went to your page. I see you're not in a band. Is this your first guitar? And there's conversation.
Yep. I'm so glad that you brought that up because it means a lot to us that is something that people see, because it goes back to that stuff about Joe starting the company in communities and that being the foundation of what we do, where it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because if someone tries to drag us, sometimes things can get nasty, and we don't want that because, like you said, we're not into the brand is not a negative thing. We're not out there talking shit about other people. It's not what we do. We never have. We never will. If you do something dumb, I might say, hey, that was real dumb. But I'm not going to be but I'm not going to be like, oh, your company sucks because blah blah blah, whatever.
It doesn't get anywhere. And
not anymore.
you see I don't want to say you see a lot of that at NAMM, but I never knew that existed in the trade world until I stepped into the trade world. And it was like, I don't want to say it was like mean girly, but it's like we wear pink on Thursday to NAMM kind of thing. And I'm like, what? Like some booths were better than others, some were better behaved, some were, just generally great neighbors. Like, I pop over and be like, hey, how you doing? You doing good? And like, and having the conversation and sharing snacks. And
Exactly.
but, you know, it always made it so much better, but there was always, they say one bad apple ruins the bunch. But you don't realize that exists. It's kind of like, okay, I'm new into this trade market. This is years ago, and I get in there, and there's people that are they just snarl at you. Sometimes they're elitists and they're not welcoming, and that has never been the case in Balaguer's forums, in Balaguer's pages, in Balaguer's anything. And people might be like, well, you're biased one way or the other, and I'm like, I don't personally even own a Balaguer, so no. I just think that as I follow it as a PR person and as a marketing, strategist, I look at this and I'm like, no, this is a very interpersonally connected company with its players. And even the people who do A&R, that it's almost like raining kindness that goes down, because even the musicians who play the instruments are super personable and sociable and will, be very kind and gracious to their fans. Like it's like a movement almost to have that type of thing. To have a Balaguer has almost become an association of having a personality and having a kind and gentle, type of cadence about your being.
Sure.
If that makes any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And it means a lot to hear that, if I'm being completely transparent, because it does, not that I wouldn't be. I don't know why I said that, but it does.
We're not judgy here.
Yeah. It does. It really means a lot, because not only is that specifically something that matters to us, we are very particular about the artists we work with, the dealers we work with, the distributors we work with. We could have buku dealers, right? I mean, it could be a thing, but we don't, because we want to work with people that we know care about the players and the customers as much as we do. And it's easy to say that, right? Like, it's easy to say that.
It says that, but it's the follow through that you guys have that they don't.
Yeah. Well,
you're not calling, if you call Balaguer, you're not calling like some call center. You're not calling like you're not emailing a bot who emails back with, maybe I can solve that for you. Like, okay.
No, it is. And I mean, there are days, and this is not a complaint, there are days when there just isn't enough time in a day, and I schedule a 30-minute call with somebody who wants to talk spec on their Select Custom, and I'm on the phone for 2 hours. But it's not, I'm not like suffering through the call. It's
you're
one of the things.
The problem. You're troubleshooting,
or just giving them advice or whatever. Like I love that part of the job. It's my favorite. One of my favorite parts of the job is, I've spent my entire life building up this knowledge base, whatever you want to call it, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. So when people reach out, it's not just about setting the record straight for the larger community, although that's a nice silver lining. It's really just about the direct communication. Like, hey, look, if you think this and this is what you want, cool. But if you want some advice, if you want to have your questions answered, that's cool too. And we love that. And there's an aspect of that I think is the kindness aspect, right? We don't judge you based on your level of playing or even your attitude. I mean, we have players who show up 80s hair metalled out, have the swagger, have the attitude. And it's like, yo, if that translates into you being a sick guitarist and that's part of your vibe and you're a good person, we do not care. If you show up head to toe, murdered out in the hardest shit, playing the hardest shit you've ever heard in your life, and you're a good person, I don't care that you're doing whatever you do. Like, that's all we want. That's all we care about. And I know our artists will appreciate you pointing that out as well, because there are, like Devin Scheidegger, he is the AR guy, and he's the guitarist in the Acacia Strain. Some of the best shows I've ever seen, some of the most brutal, some of the heaviest in Philly, right? I mean, like, they're so sick. And Devin, is just a good dude. There's nothing complicated about it. When he's talking to artists or customers or anybody, he's doing the thing. He's out there touring the world. They just got back from a European tour. He's out there on the road, still talking to people, still answering emails, still making sure that everyone feels important. Because we want everyone to feel important because we actually care about how people feel.
Right.
It sounds redundant. It really does. It sounds reductionist. It sounds kind of dumb. It sounds like a tagline, but it's not. We dedicate so much time to that because we think it's the most important thing. And there are people who will say, oh, I met such and such at this place, and I saw this guitar, I had this experience, and it wasn't great, or it wasn't this thing. And yeah, sometimes our players and our community will immediately come to our defense in a way that at first is okay and then maybe isn't after a little while. And we feel the need to intervene, not to say, hey, you can't say something negative about us. It's to intervene and say, hey, this person has a right to say this. Let them say what they want to say.
Right.
As long as it's safe, as long as it's nonviolent, consensual, whatever in that context, we're happy to let them do it, because anyone who has no negative press is censoring the press or is lying about it. And that's not us. We don't always get it right. And when someone emails in or calls us and says, hey, look,
you're human.
hey,
it's human.
Yeah. And if they say this is wrong, we say, okay, we're going to fix it. Like, that's it. There's no, we're not kicking the can. There's none of that stuff. And it's something we're super proud of.
Keep listening for the next part of this episode with Jake Trowbridge of Balaguer Guitars. Visit www.whoischristineanyway.com for access to all the social media links and additional podcast episodes.